The stories shared on It Takes Balls are unique to the individual sharing. Always speak with your trusted medical provider for treatment options specific to you. Welcome back to It Takes Balls, presented by Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation. Today's guest is joining me from tomorrow, actually. It's Saturday for me. It's Sunday for him. Scott Middleton's joining me from Australia. Scott, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me on.
So before we talk about your testicular cancer story, which is kind of an interesting one, tell me a little bit about, who you are and what it's like for you out there in Australia.
Yeah, well, I don't want to brag, but it's summertime right now, so things are pretty sweet and warm at the moment. But yeah, I live in Melbourne, Australia. I grew up about 2 hours north of Melbourne in a town called Bendigo. But I've been living in Melbourne for 5 years now. I was living overseas for a few years before that, in London, and had a great time over there. And yeah, but they're based in Melbourne, and I'm an actor and a massage therapist. So I juggle those two things pretty successfully. But I have a great passion for both of those things. So yeah, just at the moment working full time as an actor, which is lovely, doing some summer Shakespeare in the gardens, which is going really, really well. Very grateful to be in some full-time employed work for a few months, which is lovely. But yeah, I'm pretty active. I'm getting back into some more rigorous exercise, but I've focus on Spartan race and obstacle course racing competitively here and overseas, and starting in triathlons as well has been a newer thing. So just that's sort of another thing I do for fun. So that's sort of a bit about me. Yeah.
That's awesome. And as a massage therapist, you're used to touching other people, but for your testicular cancer, you were touching yourself. So, so tell me about, your discovery of your testicular cancer.
Yeah, I wasn't massaging my testicles at the time. I was touching them though, just randomly. It wasn't a routine check, although I have checked, from time to time to sort of have some awareness. But I was just casually. This is going to sound really weird, but I was chatting to my housemate in the kitchen behind the bench, and was, as you do, just had my hand on my ball and felt a lump, and so thought, oh, that feels weird. So finished that conversation, went to my room, had a more thorough feel, and yeah, it felt like something I'd never felt before. So I booked an online appointment for the next day. So I got online straight away and booked an appointment with a GP the following day and went in and saw them, and that's where it all started. So I thought I was being a hypochondriac. I was like, I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure it's nothing. It might just be a swollen epididymis or something like that. But not this time.
Yeah. So, you said you were doing your self checks every once in a while, not every month, but you were doing them. Why were you doing that? Were you aware of testicular cancer before that, or is it just something you were doing?
Yeah, no, I was aware of it. I guess, as we all do, probably wasn't taking it super seriously, but I was aware that it's something that can happen. And I've heard, just as you do through platforms like yourself or online, or things pop up and you go, oh yeah, I should check. So I didn't have a routine schedule of checking, but every now and then in the shower I would just check just to make sure. And yeah, kind of vigilant, but not super vigilant. So vigilant enough to catch it, but also, could I have caught it sooner? Maybe. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, something's better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you went and saw your GP. So what was the next step after that?
Yeah, so the GP said, yeah, there's a lump. So got sent for ultrasound, and I managed to sneak an ultrasound in the following day. I was like, this is great, because I just did want to. I was starting to get a bit anxious because they've confirmed there's a lump, and then I sort of wanted an answer. So I was trying to get it done as quickly as possible, and got an appointment the next day, but then rocked up and the radiographer had messed up the appointment. So then I had to wait a week, which was, I think, fine, because at the same time I was talking myself out of it as well. I was sort of like, no, it's fine. It's nothing. Don't worry. So I had to wait a week, got the ultrasound, and then I think it was only 5 days later that I got a phone call from my GP, being like, "We need to see you." I was like, "Yeah, cool. I'm actually on the train to Ballarat to teach for the day. So I'll be back tomorrow if that works." They were like, "Nah, we would really like to see you today." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I sort of pushed all that down and went to work and told my boss in Ballarat that I needed to go, and got my classes covered for the day and jumped on the train back to Melbourne for about an hour and a half. And went into the GP, who had already booked the appointment for me, because I was like, "Oh, I'll get back to you. I'll see if I can make it work, blah, 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 blah." And then they'd already booked the appointment. They were like, "Yeah, no, you will be here." I was like, "Okay." So then went in, and they told me that they actually found lumps on both testicles. I didn't feel any lumps in the right one. I just felt the one in the left. There's actually lumps on both. So we want to send you to a place called Peter MacCallum in Melbourne. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't listened to all of the podcasts. Listened to a few, but I'm not sure if you had anyone from Melbourne before.
You're
But
the
we,
you're the second from Australia. I can't remember
oh yeah,
where the Josh Robson is the one. If you want to go back and listen to his, I don't know where he's from off the
yeah,
top of
yeah,
my
yeah.
head, but yeah, he's in
Yeah,
Australia.
cool. hmm We have a wonderful cancer centre here called Peter MacCallum. That's the standalone hospital in the middle of Melbourne, obviously specialising in all forms of cancer treatment. And so they referred me there, and they said, "We're going to send you there. We can't confirm whether it is or isn't, but there is. We want to get some further investigation. So we'll send you there, because if it is, then you're in the right place, and if it's not, then there's no harm done." So that was when I think things really changed, because my grandfather had cancer as well and got treatment through Peter MacCallum. So when those words were mentioned, it struck me in a pretty profound way that that's what we're dealing with, or what we could potentially be dealing with, because he passed away from the disease. So I think that really hit home. So yeah, I had a phone call later that day to book appointments the following week, and went in and met with their oncology team and the surgeon straight away. And yeah, they, from the scans, said the left one looks more problematic and potentially more aggressive. So we want to go for that one first, and get that out, which they did just over a week later, I believe. And they said, "We'll probably look at taking the second one as well, but we might be able to do a partial orchiectomy on that one and try and leave at least part of it, so you have some natural testosterone and sperm." But we don't know. And I think that was the weirdest part for me, was no one said you've got cancer for the longest time. Like, there was not, no one said that. It was just, "We're not sure. We're not going to do biopsies because it's not viable. We're just going to go and take one, and then we'll find out from there." So it wasn't until after the first orchiectomy that they confirmed that, oh, that one was cancerous. And now, because of that, we're definitely going to take the second one. And they did that about 2 weeks after that. So May of 2023 was a big month. But the first orchiectomy, they, because I wanted the prosthetic replacements, and they offered that option, and I said yes, I would like that. And I got there for the surgery, got all admitted, was sitting in the bed, and the surgeon comes in and he goes, "We're actually out of stock of prosthetics at the moment. Really sorry. But because we're likely taking the second, we'll just do them both together." So I'm like, "Come on, guys. It's this day and age, Amazon Prime, get them, next day delivery. Come on." But yeah, so I went around with one ball for a while. Poor little Testicles. He was on his own for a bit, but yeah, and then yeah, they ended up removing the second one and put both the prosthetics in, and that was that first round,
Yeah.
which we did.
It's interesting that what you noted, like they didn't say cancer really before orchiectomy, which I
Yeah.
think in my case, the doctor came in and was like, "It's most likely cancer," but yeah, you're right. I mean, they can't confirm it until they take it out. So it's interesting that they wouldn't have said that before. I just find that interesting.
Yeah, I found it fascinating, and I'm fascinated with this whole idea of the way you think things will go, right? The expectation of being told you have cancer is that big moment of, "Oh, wow." oh God, struggling with that information. But for this, it was so gradual and so confirmed but not confirmed. We're going to operate on you, but we still don't even know if it is. It probably is, but we're not sure. And you're just like, you're going to take a testicle from me and not even know whether it is or not. Like that's to me, that's like it's just such a strange place to be, and not till after they've had a thorough look at it that they confirm. And I understand they don't want to be wrong. They don't want to tell you you have it, and they're, oh, by the way, it was just a, it was nothing to worry about. They don't want to be in that position, and I understand that. But yeah, to me, that was not how I thought that would go.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
retrospect, do you wish that they would have said something ahead of time, or are you okay with the way that it went?
Um, in retrospect, I think I'm okay with it because I think I understand that they didn't want to wrong foot and say something that wasn't true. And I respect their processes in terms of not jumping ahead and panicking or upsetting or, causing any kind of. I'm a pretty relaxed kind of person, but I'm not everybody. And I'm sure there's people that would completely lose their mind if that information was presented to them so abruptly, or I think there's a lot of tact that they have to operate with, and I think that was probably part of the reason why, to try and allay any kind of overreaction to the situation. But I think by the way the language they use and the way they were operating, like they were moving really quickly and they were insisting on, you know, we're going to move really quickly. So things like sperm banking, if you want to do that, you should do that straight away because we don't want to hesitate. So you're sort of like, okay, so you're not really saying it, but you're moving as though it is. So you're sort of already at the point of kind of knowing it is. By the time they turned around after the first orchiectomy and said it is, it was like, yeah, okay, I was kind of prepared for that news. So it's, yeah, but it was just not the way I thought it would go.
So after they did the second orchiectomy, obviously they confirmed cancer in the left testicle, but when they took it out of the right, was it confirmed cancer there too, or was it something else?
Yes, I've got pathology for you. I think from my note, I look back through my notes. Apparently, the left was a non-seminoma and seminoma at the same time. There was like a mix of those in there. And then the right was oh no, sorry, the teratoma was lymph nodes. The right was a pure seminoma and the left was a mixed germ cell tumor, embryonal carcinoma, seminoma, and yolk sac tumor.
Very
So
interesting.
yeah, they said that was strange to have two different types in each testicle. So the left was obviously the more aggressive one, which is why they took it first, and the right one they weren't as worried about, but yeah, wanted to take it all the same. And the tumor was too big for them to do a partial, so they just took the whole thing.
Wow. Okay.
So,
All right. So
yeah.
I assume next you had, some CT scans and you had some enlarged lymph nodes.
Yeah, yes. So I had about 3 months and then I went back for the CT scan checkup. And then, yeah, they confirmed that it had spread, yeah, to the lymph nodes. There was three tumors in the lymph nodes around the kidney. And they recommended a course of chemo to try and get on top of those. That information came as a shock because I think going through the two orchiectomies and as other people have said on the podcast, you think that's it, right? It can't go, that we're done. And the terminology of the surgeons and everyone being like, once this is done, you're clear. It's fine. We'll check on you and you're done. So when they came back and said, yeah, not good news. It's spread. Seems to have spread. That was a real shock. I thought my oncologist was joking because it started off the chat. It was all lovely, and then he went bad news, and I thought he was going to say bad news. I'm not going to see you again because you're really great and you've been fun and have a good life. that was playing in my head. I was like, oh, thank God. Yeah, great. Awesome. He's, everything's fine. He's like, no, it's spread and this is where it's spread. And it just really knocked me for six because I was like, oh, I was really not ready for that. And yeah, then he's a wonderful oncologist, Ben Tran, who's been amazing. He sat down and really calmly just went through the process of what's happened and how it's happened. And I won't go over it again because plenty of your other podcast people have mentioned, the spread straight to that area because of where the testicles originate. So yeah, he explained all of that and then explained chemo and why chemo and the type of chemo I'd be getting and all of that. And that started about 2 weeks later. I was supposed to have a trip to Hawaii with my partner for a family wedding. And that was obviously off the cards and cancelled. That chemo started about 2 weeks later for a 9-week cycle with bleomycin, cisplatin, and etoposide in three-week cycles of those. So then all of a sudden we were getting chemo, and that was another whole, oh, I'm really doing the whole cancer thing now. Like I'm really like doing all the things, going to a different department in the building. So there's 6 levels in the hospital, and I managed to use all of them except one, I think, which was the radiation level. It didn't go there, and I hope not to. Sort of worked my way through the hospital pretty well. Started chemo, and I think it was about 3 weeks in that I started the hair loss. And I think it's funny because that was all explained to me, and I was very aware that was something that would happen. And he explained all the side effects, and of all of the side effects, to me, the hair loss was the one I was least worried about. I think I was like, I've shaved my head before, so like, how is that different? And I'm being a bit gender specific here, but for a man, I think you can get away with a shaved head easier than a woman can. I think it's a lot easier, generally speaking, for a male presenting person to have a shaved head. So I was like, it's fine. Like, that was not a side effect that I was worried about. But then when it happened, that changed as well. I think I found it really hard to look in the mirror because I think for the first time I looked sick, and it was outwardly visible what was happening. So I think that every day you wake up and you look sick, or you look different. I think it'd be a difference to how you would normally look, and you're reminded as to why. So that was for me a surprise. Again, another surprise. I wasn't expecting me to react to that the way I did. It was. Otherwise, I got off pretty well through chemo. I didn't have a lot of symptoms, apart from just the overall feeling of just not feeling good. I explained it as like a hangover, but that never got better. Like you just feel off and you don't know if you want to eat or sleep or what, you just don't know what you feel like. Your body doesn't feel like your own, and you just feel just discombobulated, and you don't know what you want. Like that was my experience of it, which I found rather manageable, just accepting that and going, okay, this is what it is. And I didn't get any nausea or anything like that until actually after about a week after I'd finished my treatment. I had some stomach cramps pretty bad, and I put a heat pack on my stomach for the cramps to try and help it. And like 2 minutes later, I was vomiting in the toilet. I don't know why, but I didn't use a heat pack again because that had a pretty bad reaction to that. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the reason behind that, but just the heat just did something, and that was the only time I was ever nauseous and vomited. So and then apart from the feelings of just feeling drained, I didn't have any other major symptoms. So I think compared to other stories, I think I got off pretty well through the chemo process.
Yeah, I want to talk about losing both testicles. Did they start you on testosterone? Are you on testosterone now? And did they start that during chemo, or did they wait till after?
No, they started the testosterone straight away, straight after the second orchiectomy, and went for the testo gel. So I started using that. So while I was continuing through the 3 month gap between the orchiectomies and the chemo, I was having checkups with the endocrinologist to check the levels of the testosterone because obviously they're trying to balance how much I'm absorbing and what my level is doing. So there was about 8 months of trial and error of just setting, like, I think we started off with like 3 pumps a day, and then we checked and that was low. So we went up to 5 pumps a day, and that was getting better. So then we upped it to 6 pumps a day, and that's where I've stayed now ever since. But yeah, that took a good 6 to 8 months to find that level because you'd have to leave it and wait and see for a few months in between each time they tested. So, but yeah, and that's something I do daily now. Is that testo gel, which again I think they gave me the option to go for an injection. Obviously the 3 month or 6 month injection. But I think during the treatment, we sort of opted for more consistency. So rather than changing up the delivery of the testosterone, let's just keep that the same while we continue through chemo and then whatever else might happen after that. So yeah, we just had to keep things as consistent as possible. And it's even now something I'm not sure about. I enjoy the daily delivery of it, sort of thing. I think to me that keeps in line with what it was, a more consistent supply of it. I think to me makes sense physiologically, but over time that might change because it is a change. You have to be really conscious of when you apply it and what your day is. So, for example, if I want to go do exercise, I don't want to put on the gel and then go run and then have a shower because you haven't absorbed it. So it's changed my routine in terms of I have to think about it every day. Like, when am I going to do it? Am I going to go for a run or go to the gym this morning and then come home, have a shower and then apply? Or am I not exercising till this afternoon? Or do I have a show today or have rehearsals out in the sunshine? I'm going to sweat. Am I going to transfer it to someone because I'm wearing a singlet top? Like, all that sort of stuff is stuff you have to think about. But like anything, it becomes routine and you do adapt and you do get used to it. So I'm not sure at the moment. At the moment, I'm happy with the gel, but in summertime as well, it's very, very different. Wearing less clothing and sweating more and things like that. So I may opt to go for an injection at some point, but I'm just not thrilled about this idea of the peak and trough of the testosterone. I'd love to just keep things the way they are or the way they were, as much as possible.
Is this your
Bit of a
first
theme
summer?
for me.
Is this your first summer with it?
Second,
Okay.
second summer with it, yeah, yeah. But the first, I was still getting a handle on it, and still sort of, this is the first summer where I've been clear for a little while, and living more of my regular life, I think would be the way of putting it, rather than sort of a treatment phase.
Yeah. How has your experience been getting it? And I asked this question because I have a friend who plans on immigrating from the United States to Australia to be with his girlfriend. But he
Yeah.
says that he's heard that testosterone is kind of not as accepted, I guess, as in the US. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he has anecdotally heard. So, I mean, do you have
Yeah.
trouble getting it, or is it pretty easy for you to access?
With the prescriptions I have, which are ongoing from the oncology and endocrinology team, it's easy to get because I have a prescription for it, but they're really strict on it. So there was one time they almost denied it to me because I got it too soon. So for the amount I was previously prescribed, they thought I'd used it too quickly. But because we'd upped the pump from 3 to 6 over a 3 or 4 month period, that wasn't reflected on my prescription. So the pharmacist was like, hang on a minute, that's too much for you. So once I talked to my GP, they switched the prescription and it was fine. So they do keep track of it pretty closely. It's not, you can't just get easy access to it. So yeah, that is true. But if you need it, you can get it pretty readily. So
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, you did chemo and handled it pretty well. And then you had another CT scan that revealed some of the nodes shrunk, but not all, right?
Yeah, so this chemo seemed to attack one of them pretty well, and the other two left pretty much untouched. So then we were recommended for the RPLND, and that was to me described as not completely urgent because those tumors weren't likely to spread, or if they did, they would spread very slowly. So they weren't really in a rush. So they said, we'll put you on a waiting list. It'll probably be 10 weeks or so, and we'll get you in and get that done. I ended up waiting 3 months for that. I think mostly because it was listed as a non-urgent procedure. So I think being part of a cancer hospital, there's obviously a lot more urgent procedures that come in. So when you're on a waiting list, you get pushed down pretty regularly, which makes perfect sense. Totally understand that. But it left me in a bit of a limbo, just sort of waiting and not being sure. It got to 10 weeks and I was like, hey, so is this happening? They're like, oh, yeah. Soon. I was like, cool. So it's just a real limbo, which was really probably one of the toughest parts of my treatment was just the waiting. Every other time, the action was swift and it was fast. It was almost hard to keep up with. And this was like, oh no, just wait. And I was like, ah. So anyway, another month went by and I was like, what are we doing? Like, come on. So then the Peter Mac is actually next to another hospital, the Royal Melbourne Hospital. They are joined by an aero bridge, so they do sometimes cooperate together for client care. So they did offer. Well, first of all, they offered me a spot in Royal Melbourne that was a week away. They're like, we've got a spot come up next week. We can get you in. And I was like, oh my God, wow, yeah, yes, let's do it. And then they ghosted me for 5 days. So it was like 3 days before my surgery. And didn't have a number because it wasn't my hospital, it was a different hospital. So I was trying to get in touch and trying to get through to doctors and trying to contact them. And I couldn't get through. Anyway, I got through to someone eventually and they were like, oh, yeah, nah, really sorry. But the spot that was offered to you wasn't actually a spot, that was for someone else. So the doctor shouldn't have offered that to you. It is a surgical spot that didn't exist. We're really sorry. I was like, oh, but we've got a spot in 3 weeks' time if you want to come for that. And I was like, oh, yeah. It was about 3 weeks sooner than what my other hospital would have done. And by that point, and my other regular hospital, the cancer hospital, again, I might have been pushed down. So they were like, your date with them is not guaranteed, whereas we can guarantee you this date in a few weeks. So I just went with that and said, yeah, sure, let's just get it done. So my RPL&D was done at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. And so, yeah, they got me in and it all went as planned and finally got it done. I think the biggest surprise out of that one was after the surgery, I didn't know I was going to be having a catheter. So I woke up with a catheter and was like, oh, wow, that's a thing. Because they sort of have to check on your bladder getting back to normal function and whatnot. So, and then I got a surprise no-fat diet. I don't know if they wanted me on a 3-week no-fat diet, which I wasn't aware of. So right as I was being discharged a couple of days later, the nutritionist came up and gave me a list of things I couldn't eat for 3 weeks. And I was like, oh. It was really surprising because the things like protein, like chicken and red meat, were not possible. Like I couldn't eat those. And I was like, aren't I supposed to be recovering from surgery? Don't I need to like fuel my body? They're like, yes, but with certain things. So they gave me there was like some specially formulated protein shakes. Obviously I could eat vegetables and fruit, certain fruit. But things that really surprised me, what I couldn't eat, things like deli ham and turkey were fine, which I thought had a more artificial or higher fat content than regular meat, but they were fine. I just had to keep things under a gram of fat. pretty much. So my mum, who was incredible through this whole journey and was there every step of the way with me, which I'm super, super grateful for. She's been an absolute rock the whole time. Her and I were down the supermarket, mostly her because I was at home resting, but when we did go together, we'd just be flipping over packets to see what the actual ingredients of things were, trying to keep below this 1 gram of fat per serve kind of deal. And that was eye-opening. A lot of no-fat products or low-fat products have the similar fat content to full-fat products, but they just market themselves differently. It was a very strange, very eye-opening time of what's actually in your food. And a lot of things I thought would have fat, like a jar of stir-fry sauce. I was like, that's got to be full of fat because it's like a thick consistency. There's no fat in it. And I was like, oh, interesting. Sugar, but no fat, and sugar was fine. So they'd wanted to do that just to take the pressure off the lymphatic system, which obviously works to help break down fat. So by taking the fat out of the diet, it's sort of taking the pressure off the lymphatic system to help it recover, I guess, and not overload it with work after losing those lymph nodes. Because I think they took about 10 from each side. Because even though the tumors in the nose were on the left side, where that more aggressive testicle was. So that's obviously spread up to there. But they took the lymph nodes on both sides just to make sure that they cleared everything out, basically. So a couple of weeks after that, went back to see the surgeon, and I saw the surgeon who did the procedure, and he had some good news, and he said that the surgery was curative. And I think the word curative was a lovely word because it wasn't you're cured, it was just that the surgery has brought you to a place of, being free of this for now, So that was a lovely, lovely word to hear. And I think it was the first time a doctor didn't prescribe another round of some sort of treatment. So there was no, and now in 3 months' time or a week, we'll do this. It was just, no, we'll just routinely check on you. There's nothing else. We've literally scraped it all out of you. There's no further spread anywhere beyond that we can see. So although we'll keep monitoring you, that's it for now. So go enjoy your no-fat diet and have fun. So yeah, and then that's sort of the last real treatment that I had. And what was that? That was the 29th of May last year, 2024. So again, May. For some reason, it's all been May. A lot of stuff's happened in May. So buckling up for this May. But it's yeah. So it's been since then just recovery. The surgery knocked me around a fair bit because there's 5 incisions along the. They did the robotic lymph node dissection. So it's 5 incisions along the bottom of the stomach, along with the 3 incisions for the orchiectomies. So I've got quite a few scars along the tummy. I don't know if we do show and tell. Happy to show if people want to see, but I don't know if that's something you really want on your podcast. But
Hey, why not? Let's do it. Maybe YouTube will flag it, but we'll see.
YouTube will flag it. It's all PC, I promise. But there's just these 5 incisions. Right, I can't even see them from where I am. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're healing quite well. But yeah, it's a little smiley face along there. But so that's just the battle scars. I won't show you the other 3 because they are a bit personal. We will get cancelled on YouTube if we put those up, but they're down a bit lower in the groin area. So a lot of people are like, "What? They don't cut them out through the scrotum?" Like that surprises a lot of people, and it surprised me because I thought they were just going through the scrotum and pull it out that way, but when I show people the scars, it's like, oh no, I don't want to see your balls. I'm like, well, it's not actually my balls; it's up higher, and so yeah, I've got those ones there as well. So
Yeah. So okay. So I know in your your story you submitted here, you mentioned retrograde ejaculation. Was that, I mean, with no testicles or no natural testicles at the time of your RPLND? I mean, was that something that they were worried about, or?
yeah, they did mention it as a symptom. I was still post orchiectomy, but double orchiectomy, I was still ejaculating, obviously just without the sperm. So there wasn't until after the RPL&D that I actually experienced the full retrograde ejaculations, which I've been very public with my journey on my social media, and sharing every step of the way, much the same way your podcast is, just to get information out there and share the journey and break down the scariness of it. I think a lot of people just are so scared, because of the unknown. Like, you don't know what the process is. So I think by sharing it, I was aiming to just break down all the myths and just share what I was going through. Nothing really profound, but just to talk about it and start the conversation. And the one thing I didn't really share on socials, and it's probably one of the main things I'm dealing with now, is the retrograde ejaculations. Like, I don't think I was really ready for that. Or again, much like the hair loss, that it was something that would affect me so much. But I think it's a weird feeling. They say, oh, it's just the same. It's just there's no fluid, and I'm like, it's not the same. It's, for me, it's a change from how I used to be, and to me, that's what's hardest to deal with. Like, I used to be able to do this, and now I can't, and there's nothing I can really do about that to change it. So it's sort of, it sounds really weird because it's such a small thing. Like, in terms of battling cancer, it's, if that's the only takeaway that you have to deal with, then like, just be grateful and shut up. That's sort of that feeling of, look at what you've overcome, and the price you've had to pay is, quite minimal. If this is the price you have to pay for that, then pay the price. But at the same time, there's insecurity. Like, I do feel insecure about it. It's and it's not anything that anyone really knows about. Like, but I'll be down at the gym and I just have these waves of like, these guys can all probably do that and I can't. You know what I mean? And no one knows. No one else would ever know, but I know, and it sometimes makes me feel just, insecure. So that's sort of something that I'm dealing with at the moment. And as I said, it seems trivial, but it's just something that, and they've said, I'm still within the first 12 months, and they said sometimes it can come back. It either will or it won't, because obviously it's just that vessel sending the fluid up into the bladder and out through the urinary stream rather than out of the penis. So I think that's happening, but I'm not sure. But they said either that'll shift and that'll get back to functioning normally, or it won't. So they said 6 to 12 months. So I'm at about 8 months now. So I'm like, is it? We're getting close to 12 months and there's no change. That's about a small amount of, I don't know what the technical term is, but the pre-cum fluid, there's a very, very small amount of that, but that's about all that comes out. So it's, that's been weirdly one of the hardest parts of the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think your feelings about it are absolutely reasonable. I don't think you're, abnormal in feeling that way.
Yeah. And my oncologist the other day, I was a bit like, hey, excuse me. He was like, what, are you planning on doing pornography? Like, why do you need this? And I'm like, because obviously there's no sperm content. So procreation is not the aim, but it's that, like I said earlier, it's that, but it's not how my body was, and all the changes. I put on a lot of weight through the chemo and through the surgery, through the recovery. And I've been working really hard to work that off. So those bottle, and my hair has grown back, and it's grown back curly, and I haven't cut it since chemo, and it's grown back with full curl. And the show I'm doing at the moment was set in the 70s. So they're like, oh, big curly hair, great, love that. And now I switched over to doing Macbeth, and they're doing a very classic rendition, like, oh, the long hair's perfect, keep the long hair. So as much as it's summertime and I want to cut it, I'm not allowed to at the moment. So just embracing it in all its glory. But I'm also a bit sentimental because it's sort of, these curls came from all of that. They're a bit of the same way that the bald head was confronting. It's sort of like the look at, what you've overcome, and things do go back to normal in a lot of ways. Look at the things that you have got back, and be grateful for that. And they're a bit, yeah, a bit sentimentally attached to the curls because I've never had curly hair before. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to manage it. I've had tips from lots of friends and family just being like, how do you manage it? Curls? I don't know. I'm learning slowly, but also like wanting now, I think, to maybe return to how things were. And again, that's something in my control that I can get back to, what it was. And I think it's a mix of that. It's a mix of trying to, get my fitness back. My fitness is so down, for good reason, obviously, but, slowly and patiently working my fitness back up, trying to, get that back to where it was. And it's happening. It's just really slow, I'm a patient person, but it's just, really, I used to run 23 kilometers a week, for my big run and then smaller runs in between that. I'm like a 6K guy now. Sorry, it's kilometers, not miles. Do the math. But it's, yeah, that's, it's not a lot compared to what I used to do, but I'm working towards it, which is fine. I know I'll get there, but it's the stuff you can change, I think is okay for me, but it's the stuff you can't change that's a bit harder to swallow.
Yeah. Hey, 6K is 7K more than me. So you're doing good. And I'm 5 years out. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
hey, the hair, it seems like helping you get rolls now. So that's good.
I was talking to my housemate last night. Maybe there's a whole new branch of casting I've opened up now, different character types I can tap into with the longer hair. So
Were you able, during chemo and your recovery from your surgery, were you able to still do any acting or any massage stuff, or were you writing plays or and stuff? Or how was that for you?
yeah, so I found it kind of tough, especially obviously the surgeries recovering and whatnot. Massage therapy is my main income. So it's a physically demanding job. So I was kind of limited in my recovery. I did get back after the orchiectomies. I did start treating again before chemo. But then with chemo, I couldn't do either of my jobs because I was toxic. So I couldn't transfer a sweat or, any kind of bodily fluids between me and my client. So I couldn't massage. I couldn't really act because I didn't have the energy levels and I wasn't actively seeking work. And my partner actually was did a very, very generous thing and started a secret GoFundMe. And so a lot of people donated to this GoFundMe and raised quite a lot of money to help see me through because as an independent artist and massage therapist, I don't have access to sort of any kind of health payout or what's the word, leave, medical leave or paid sick leave or anything that anyone in a regular full-time job would get some time paid leave to tackle this sort of stuff. But I just had no safety net. So yeah, my partner really generously started a GoFundMe and was able to raise money to help see me through that period of unemployment, which extended for a good 4 months of not being able to do anything. However, I have my own theatre company and we were scheduled to produce a production of Hamlet. And during chemo, I was working on the script for that. So obviously editing it down, Shakespeare's biggest play, and we had to do it in an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes. So I was script editing, which was a saving grace because I was still doing something during that time. I obviously wasn't feeling well, and like when you're feeling pretty lethargic and like you have a hangover, editing Shakespeare, not really something you really want to be doing. But it was something creative to keep me going. And we actually produced and I performed that in between chemo and the RPL&D. So that was it. So yeah, so my Hamlet had a shaved head with a tiny little bit of regrowth happening at that point. I was set in a circus, so I was playing Hamlet was a clown, and did that, fully produced, production managed, performed in this show for my company in between time, recovering from chemo, which is in retrospect kind of idiotic, but I think it did give me a good distraction. And Guy, it gave me some good, material to work with in terms of, yeah, some of the text that Hamlet delivers, to be or not to be. That is the question, is like, that has a whole different meaning when you're battling cancer, like it's the kind of impetus that, and insight that gave me into this character was pretty huge. So there was, I guess, a bit of catharsis in there as well, being able to sort of explore and express some of this, what I've been through. So I think the timing, as well as it was kind of idiotic, was kind of lovely to get to do that. And I didn't know at the time, but obviously the cancer was still in my body. I was like, wow, I don't know if anyone's ever done that before, but not recommended. But definitely it was a wonderful experience. And yeah, I'm really grateful how that played out. And then after that, well, just before that, I was performing another show, Torch Song, in Melbourne, and that it was opening night, actually, for that show. And so, obviously, anyone who knows anything about theatre, or even if you don't, the week leading up to the night you open is hectic. Like, there's a lot going on. It's long days, huge rehearsals, a lot of pressure, and the realization that in a couple of hours' time, there's going to be people watching and judging everything you do. So dealing with that kind of pressure. And on the day of opening, I got the phone call from the hospital saying that I had to go in for more treatment and for the RPD. So I had that information incoming and then had an opening night that night. So I really had to take that on, process it, lock it away for a bit, and then go and do a show. And then sort of that was another weird day. Of course, it had to be that day. Couldn't be the next day or a couple of days before. On that opening night day, found out that news. So I was like, okay, cool, awesome. So timing, right?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, it probably proved how good of an actor you are if you're able to kind of keep going and deliver your performance with that news in the back of your head.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, like you look at the blessings of it, it was a good distraction. It was good to just not dwell on the information and just, again, I received it, I acknowledged it, and then, as I said, just put it away for a minute. And then it's like, I've got a job to do, I've got to go do this. And to get away from it for a moment was nice. And then had the next day to just sit down and sort of process that a bit more. So, yeah, that was, yeah, timing, right?
What advice do you have for somebody who maybe has just been diagnosed?
You're not alone, I think, and it's something you obviously, a platform you've made as well, which I totally respect and admire what you do in allowing people to share their stories and break down those barriers and the fear factor, I think, of finding out that your life's just changed. Knowing that you're not going through it alone. There's other people out there just like you that have been through it, are going through it, or are going to go through it, unfortunately. And just to know and to reach out, I think. And if you need support, don't be afraid to ask for it. I think as men, even though we are getting better at it, we're still shit at asking for help and terrible with our own healthcare. We prioritize others and we don't want to address things because you might have to take time off work. You might have to, manage things differently or, have all these things happen. But burying your head in the sand is not going to do anything about it. But, that's for people that, have just been diagnosed or haven't been diagnosed yet, in proactively seeking and keeping on top of that. One thing I've always said is check your bits. I say bits because I think it's for everybody, it's not just for men, it's women, it's everybody. Bits encompasses all those bits of, we need to be checking on and being familiar with. So check your bits has been a big thing of mine and encouraging everyone to do that. And I've had a lovely experience because of sharing my story, people come up to me and saying, actually, I have one testicle and I had it removed because of a lump. And, people coming out of the darkness and people I never suspected being like, thank you for saying something because I haven't told anyone, but, I've been through it, or I've had experiences of people coming and telling me they've used my story to bring it up with their children and their sons, and just to be like, hey, this is someone I know, they've been through it, this is what happened, so these are the reasons why you need to be vigilantly checking and being aware of your own body and following up if you need it. Don't be afraid to go and get that medical checkup. I think that's the first stage, isn't it? Because the fear is that they're going to give you the bad news. So if you don't go, you don't get the bad news. But the trouble is, as we all know, that doesn't fix the problem. So, yeah, seek help if you need it. Reach out, find people that are happy to talk about it, and know that, yeah, if you've just been diagnosed, that, yeah, it can be scary, but, you know, get on top of it, do what you've got to do, get through it. And every story is different, as you know, all the hundreds of stories you've shared, everyone has a different experience. Everyone will have their own experience of it, but it's nice to know that there's similarities and things you can relate to, and not feel alone, because I felt alone at the start because I didn't know anyone who'd had it before. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know any of these terminologies or anything. I didn't know that chemo was multiple drugs. I thought it was one drug that they just throw at you. I didn't know there was multi-pronged attacks and ways they can, do all of that. So I learned a lot in my journey. So, yeah, just ask for help if you need it.
Yeah, great advice and insight. Is there anything else that you want to add as we kind of come down the home stretch here?
Not really. I just think, yeah, also another bit of advice. Don't be afraid to speak up during treatment with questions that you have, or uncertainties, or things that you're not sure of. Ask for clarity, and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Ask the questions: why? What's happening? What are the effects? And why they're doing certain things. And, all my team were very good at explaining things, and were very clear. But sometimes you do need to speak up and ask questions, and take control of it. Is your body, after all. I think you become a piece of meat once you get in the system, right? You're just something for them to cut open and throw drugs at. But I think remembering that you are in control of your body all of the time, and obviously listen to advice and follow the recommendations, but don't be afraid to ask questions, and stand up for yourself if you don't feel comfortable about things. I just think thank yous. I think just another chance to thank my mum, who was incredible through the whole thing, and was there every step of the way. She's been an absolute rock the entire time. My family, who stood by and supported her, supporting me, and supported me as well. It's tough, but it has something that has connected us a lot as well. And my partner, who actually lives over in America, and is moving here, hopefully in July. As you must be an Aussie thing, importing Americans. With the last Aussie that you interviewed. But yeah, so we've been in an online relationship for 4.5 years, and have finally got the visa stuff sorted so that we can coexist here in Australia. So a lot of my journey, he's been online. He came out for chemo and visited me during chemo, which was incredible. But we've been doing trips back and forward throughout all of this. And yeah, finally getting him out here in July to live. So counting down to that as well. But yeah, it's been incredible during the whole process. Yeah. And all my friends that have always reached out. It's the little things that make a huge difference. Someone random message, hey, thinking of you, hey, how you doing? It's not much, but it means a lot when you're going through stuff like this. So I've got a wonderful group of friends that have all been wonderful to me in different ways, and supported me and made me feel like I wasn't alone. So it was lovely. So thank you to everyone that's supported me.
Awesome. Where can people find you if they want to connect?
Um, all of my stories are on Instagram, Scotty underscore Middleton, and Facebook as well. But Instagram's probably the best one, easiest to find because you can scroll through and see what's cancer related and what's not, and what's not. So yeah, I've also got a bit of your merch I've been sporting as well. I did a triathlon a few weeks ago and wore one of your shirts during the triathlon, which was just a bit of a I don't know. I just wanted again to just have it out there, it was the first triathlon I'd done. I'd only done one before treatment, and then I got back to doing another one, just to sort of again this whole idea of coming back to what I used to do, and no expectation. And I'm a very competitive person, but this was very just want to finish. Just want to finish. I actually did pretty well. I was pretty happy. But yeah, did it all wearing one of your shirts. So just always, spreading that message and going to continue to advocate for it. So if anyone wants more details on my journey, that the Instagram posts pretty clearly take you through that. If you want to just watch those and not feel alone.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for wearing the shirt. And thank you for being on It Takes Balls.
Thanks, Stephen. Really appreciate it.
For more information and resources for your testicular cancer journey, visit testicularcancerawarenessfoundation.org. You can also follow us on social media at Testis Cancer. We're on Facebook at Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation.